This is my dear friend, Seth Gilliam. I know I say that with all the guests that we have. We go back to our teens as friends. We've been best friends for, God, I'm ashamed to say, over 40 years. It's no wonder that Seth met with success, as so many people did from our group. Everybody worked with each other constantly, all the time. There was never a moment where we weren't focused on making our dreams come true. And we all strove for it with drive that was unyielding and unstopping. So I'm going to break the ice by asking Seth a couple of questions, and then you guys can, just to give you a quick review. Seth is a LaGuardia High School graduate, just like myself. LaGuardia, baby. Then he went to SUNY Purchase, conservatory program up there. Upon graduation, he started acting immediately on the stage. I think Richard III, he did it in the park with Denzel Washington. Right. From that, it got him his first recurring role on television, which was on The Cosby Show. And then he's pretty much worked nonstop ever since. He's worked on series, and as actors, unfortunately, we don't get to choose the job. It chooses us. So he's been very lucky in the jobs that have chosen him, because they have series that have run for 5, 6, how many years did The Walking Dead run for?
12.
12. So, years and years. And nowadays, with movies being dead, series is where it's at if you want to have longevity and be known as an actor. So working on series after series as you did, let's go straight to The Walking Dead, because I think that was your longest tenure that you had. What is it like playing a character for that long, day in, day out? Is there ever tedium that goes along with it? How much information do they give you so that you can play something and know that it's going to connect to something further on in your character arc? And last question, I know it's a many-parted question. How often were there changes to the script once you got them? How fast and furious did those changes come in?
Well, the tedium was actually offset by the lack of information that you get from the writers, from the writing staff about the character and what's going on with him from week to week. You kind of find out a week before you start filming what's going on. What we did on The Walking Dead was we had these meetings with the head writer or the script supervisor before the season started, and they would give you an idea of what your arc was going to be for the first 8 episodes, and then tell you that we would have another conversation in 3 months' time where we talk about the second 8 episodes. The second conversation rarely, if ever, happened. So you were pretty much on your own trying to figure out where they were taking the character from week to week. And that kept it from being tedious. Otherwise, it would have been exceedingly tedious.
Now, at the same time, this is not common, but at the same time that you were shooting The Walking Dead, you were also playing a veterinarian on Teen Wolf, which shot out here, and Walking Dead shot in Atlanta, in Peachtree. It's not even Atlanta, right? It's like an hour south into the sticks. What was that like, playing 2 characters on series at the same time? And that went on for years.
Yeah, that went on for about 5 years. And that was pretty exciting because the characters were so incredibly different. One was unsure of the world that he was in and the person that he was becoming in this world, and the other had all the answers. So it was great to be able to play a kind of apples oranges type of character archetype. At the same time, because it kept me from making the same choices in 2 different roles.
Who has a question for Seth? And don't be shy. Go ahead, throw your hands up.
Yeah, so I have a question. When you were shooting both those projects at the same time, and you were working on both those characters on the side when you weren't shooting, did you find that you had to have dedicated sets of time to work on different ones, or could you work on one of the characters and then immediately switch over to the other? Do you find that there had to be some sort of buffer? Or I've never experienced anything like that before, so I'm just curious.
I would only work on the character of the state that I was working in. So if I was in California, then it was all Dr. Deaton all the time. If I was in Georgia, then it was all Father Gabriel all the time. I rarely brought the 2 characters over. I really crossed state lines with them. Because I had about a 5 or 6 hour plane ride to prepare for what was going to happen, and then about a day or 2 to settle into the script and then work from there. So I didn't really have the time to bring the characters into each world. You know what I mean?
How often did you get script changes? How often did that happen?
There are lots of script changes on Teen Wolf, and there were hardly ever any script changes on The Walking Dead. We also weren't encouraged to improvise on The Walking Dead. It was all pretty much, it had to be word perfect and verbatim, or else we would do it again. And on Teen Wolf, there was a lot more leeway to inform the character with whatever came to mind, particularly for Dylan O'Brien, who they kind of relied on his own quick wit to come up with a lot of the sarcastic humor that Styles had, the character of Styles had.
Yeah, no
Which
doubt.
is probably one of the reasons why he was an audience favorite, because it seemed very in the moment and natural and lived.
And it was, wasn't it? And also, you know, when I tell you guys all the time that characters that we get behind and want to know more about, they're people we like. You know what I mean? People that we root for. And so there's something like an actor's chi, I've talked about it before, where it's like if I'm watching Robert De Niro, whether he is playing a mafia heavy or he's playing Frankenstein, there's always a touch of De Niro in there, you know what I mean? And I love that about him. I go see movies with him in it because I like his persona that he raises levels of and lowers levels of himself in order to play different characters. Mm-hmm. Did you find that with these two characters, were you able to find things that connected them at all?
No, they were they were diametrically opposed. They were very different and took very different preparations for to get into the headspace of. The first thing is to try to get the material down as tight as possible, and that's just repetition. That's just reading it over and over and over and over and over again, reading it out loud over and over and over again. I also like to write it out when I do it, because once I have the words down, then I can create what happens and what informs the words, how to fill the words in with actual life and behavior.
And I think that, you know, we all have our preparations that we do as actors, but I know that uniquely, or maybe even not so uniquely, music is a big part of it for you. If you're trying to leave one behind and go to the next, what do you do? How does the music inform you?
I try to get a sense from reading the script and from what they say about the character, what the character says about himself, what other people say about the character, as to what kind of music the character would like. And I
see people nodding. I think other people do that too.
And then I seek out that kind of music and kind of play it on a loop in my head. Oftentimes, when it might not be very helpful for some, but at the same time that I'm listening to Hallelujah by Jeff Buckley, I'm learning lines for Father Gabriel. At the same time I'm listening to The Possum Kingdom by the Toadies, I'm preparing for a fight scene with a ninja on the set of Teen Wolf. So music plays a huge role in, I think, for one, it eases the nerves. It helps with memorization, strangely enough, and it helps to give me an emotional connection to the character, because mostly what they're going to give you is an intellectual into the character on the information that you get on the page, and you are entrusted to fill in the emotional side. So I try to do that with music.
I just want to point something out for those of you, and then I'll go to you. That even at this stage, you're dealing with an actor who's probably, you know, done over 1,000 episodes of television, no cap. And here he is still saying, it helps with nerves. You know, so for those of you that sometimes get nervous or wrestle with that, understand every actor does. Every actor does. It's completely normal because, you know, we sensitive about our shit, you know what I mean? Number one, we're putting a lot into it, and I'd be worried if you weren't a little. You know, it wouldn't mean that much to you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
How important is it, or how deep of a background should you create for your character?
As deep an entire world. It's yours to play with and pick and choose what you're going to decide to use from what you've come up with. So the more choices you have, the more variety you have, the more fun you'll have playing it, and probably the better your performance will be.
Going off of what a few other people asked, when you're going between roles, how much do you think costume and makeup helps?
It helps tremendously. Unfortunately, you don't really get the time with the costume and makeup people that you would like when you're preparing the character. You're pretty much getting to meet them the day that you're working. And very rarely does the costumer call you up unless you are the star in a film or a TV series and say, what are your ideas on what they'd wear? You usually go in and they have 3 or 4 different outfits for you to choose from, and you've got about 20 minutes to do so. And then you're meeting the hair and makeup people half an hour, 40 minutes before you're on set. So if you're looking to build a character through details of costuming and hair and makeup, it's something that you're going to have to do on your own, and then come in and hope that they are seeing it along the same lines as you are. And whenever they ask for your input, give them as much information as you possibly can.
What about when you've like booked a job, like Father Gabriel?
Yeah.
You know, there were very specific aspects to the character, costume-wise and makeup-wise. You know, his hat was very specific. He was blinded in one eye, and so, you know, I mean, showing the duality of who he was. You know, one eye was completely white and the other eye was dark. Were there times when, like, you'd go in, you'd get that on, and you'd be like, "Oh, now I'm ready"? You know, like, did it help with that?
It pretty much did. The hat came out of needing to block the sun from the contact lens. So that was a costume choice that I had asked for specifically, because I was quite blind whenever it was sunny out, and it's always sunny out in Georgia, because my iris was fighting to see through the contact lens, so it was wide open. So if I looked into the sunlight, then my head was flooded with light, and I got severe headaches. So I'd asked for the hat to block the light, and it wound up being a cool look.
Yes, it became iconic.
Yes,
yeah.
The hat and the eye. But aside from that, everything was laid out for me. And thankfully with the character Father Gabriel, because it was, you know, he kept his priest outfit on for the entirety of his existence on the show, it helped to get me into a daily ritual of getting into character.
Going off of that and a little of what you mentioned about creating a world for your character, since both of these projects are very on topic with supernatural beings, what other things do you think helped you create a supernatural world for your character in these projects?
That I left to the design team and to special effects and to special makeup effects, because there was no way that I could approximate what it's like to be, say, a werewolf. Yeah. But I could let the hair and makeup and costuming take care of that for me. The only thing that I could do really is try to figure out, as a person, what does the character want? How do they go about getting it? And try to play it as naturalistically as possible and hope that the special effects were good enough so that the two could mesh together and it wouldn't stand out as a piece of shit.
I have a question for you. I don't know if everybody knows this, but The Walking Dead, they did their final season. They really shot 2 seasons in a row, back to back. So when you're immersed working for that long, and you know that, like, I mean, that's over almost a year, right? Yeah. Of straight shooting, no breaks except Christmas. When you're shooting that long, I imagine you can't go up for other stuff because you're busy and all that.
Well, the audition process changed while I was on The Walking Dead, and then with the pandemic hitting, followed by the strike, and it went from in-person meetings to online meetings, to Zoom appointments and to self-tapes, which I was unfamiliar with. I'm used to walking in the room, meeting people, reading for them, getting a sense of whether I want to work with them, as well as whether they want to work with me. And that all went away, and it became something that happens in a vacuum. So I'm not as sharp, strangely enough, with the audition process as I used to be, because it's shifted, and I was working that entire time. However, I'm a lot faster in front of the camera than most of the people who I'm going up against, because of the experience that I've had with working something continuously for a long period of time.
Right, and for those of you that, the 1 or 2 of you that maybe never watched The Walking Dead, it could be talky. You know what I mean? Where they could have scenes of dialogue that were 6-minute scenes, no cuts, you know? And you would have to get all that down, and as you mentioned earlier, they were very exacting. So it gives me pause sometimes when you guys don't get your stuff memorized in time. Because it just makes me think, you know, next month we have Owen Renfro coming in here. He's a lead director on Y&R. If you're doing a soap like Young and the Restless, you got to memorize 30 pages a day. a day. So it's a muscle, you know. You gotta exercise it. Who has another question? Jenny.
My question for you is there anything you think you do in your everyday life that just helps you be a better actor, or anything that we could be doing in our everyday life that could really help us just be better actors?
Listening and people watching. I'm constantly looking for little bits of behavior that I can borrow and ascribe to a character. The way somebody talks, their rhythms, the cadence of their voice, whether they shake their foot when they're talking or listening, active listening. All of those things, watching people's interactions, when they make eye contact, when they don't make eye contact, looking up, looking for thoughts, looking down as you're trying to cover your thoughts. All those kinds of things help to constantly pay attention to as you're moving around through the world.
Yeah, when we went to school, one of the things that they would often say is, the world is your classroom. You know, it really is true. And not only that, but as an actor and acting teacher, I walk through, you know, there's a saying that a pickpocket or a thief sees only pockets when he's walking around, you know what I mean? That's all he's looking at. When I am walking around, I am constantly, when I see strangers, no matter what it is they're doing, I am thinking, what would they play? What would they get cast as? You know, because I assume everybody's an actor like me. What would they go up for? What roles? And then what are they playing right now? What character are they playing? Where can I put that? How can I use that? Where can I file that? You know, I think it becomes instinctive after a while to just to walk around and do that.
I often have doubts about, and there usually come in moments of stillness, about what the next move is and whether I've done the right thing or whether it's time to reinvent myself or whatever it may be. But when the doubts come in, I watch bad movies. I watch bad performances and I go, if that shit can get made, then I can do this fucking thing. And it helps.
Right on.
Did you ever consider hopping into a different field of the show business, or like, did you ever?
No. No, I haven't.
He has no other fucking skills, dude.
I have no other discernible skills. I mean, I can read English.
But long division would be tough at this point.
No, I've been very fortunate in being ignorant enough to believe that I have just one purpose in life, and that's to entertain. Being a father is, you know, of course, very important. However, entertaining is pretty much the only thing that that kind of drives me. And in a country where you can be just about anything, I think it's important to give what you dream of being as much of a shot as possible, and to exhaust every avenue to make it happen before you switch over and do one of the other millions of different professions.
And just to add to that, so many people advanced in this industry through nepotism or connections or something like that. When Seth entered and I entered into the industry, we didn't know anybody, not one agent, producer, director, or actor. So had to kind of forge your own path, whereas it's a drop easier for everybody in this classroom. You know, so the American dream of, like he said, you know, in this country, you kind of are blessed in the sense that you do have a shot to go out and do anything you want to do, no matter where you come from, no matter who you are, what your color is, your sexual proclivities, your religion, no matter any of those things, all of it can be overcome. And when I say overcome, I mean there is racism, bigotry, and anti-Semitism out there, and that needs to be overcome sometimes. But coming from not knowing anybody in the business to getting to where Seth is today, he just did that by hard fucking work. By good old-fashioned hard work, no quit. Eyes on the prize, I believe I'm meant to do this. You know? So anybody can do it. If you can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah,
yeah, congrats.
That's fantastic.
Who else has a question? Anybody? Yes.
You had mentioned that both of the roles that you played were vastly different. What was the process of you stepping in character and also kind of returning to yourself?
The process of stepping into the character, as I said before, is really one about, for me, it's basically about what does the character want and how do they go about getting it. And how they go about getting it is oftentimes given to you by the writer or writers in the TV's case. But and just as often as they'll give it to you, they won't. So it really is just a matter of imagination. It's knowing what the character wants, seeing what they do to go about getting it, and using your imagination to fill in all of the rest. How are they a deep breather? Are they a light breather? Do they snore? Are they an insomniac? Are they narcoleptic? What little bits of information is the writer giving you that you can then expand on with your imagination to help fill in a deeper and clearer picture?
Yes, and I think that is the actor's part to do that. That's your job. Besides, making believe, I mean, congratulations, that's fundamental step one. But to go beyond that is to fill in all that stuff that the writer has left for you to fill in. He's giving you hints, he's nudging you in a direction, and when you come in that room or you walk on that set, he's hoping to be surprised. He's hoping to sit back and go, oh, fuck, that's what I wrote. Hell, this is great. That you elevate his thing, that you better the instruction, that a director gives you direction, you better the direction. He watches it back and go, boy, that's what I meant to tell them to do. But then they actually went and did it. And I think that's why they call it a part, not just because it's a part of the piece, but because you have a part to do. I've always thought that. Yes?
This is kind of like a subjective question, I guess, but I don't know if you've ever dealt with a director that necessarily you didn't connect with, but if you have, how do you overcome maybe communicational differences or just not clicking with a director?
I'm sure we've all experienced this as kids. Your parents tell you to do something, you know that it's stupid, you know that it's going to be a waste of your time, and you know how better to do the thing. What do? You nod and you tell them yes. And then you find a way to do what you wanted to do in their parameters.
Right.
And that can be tricky, but that can also be a lot of fun. Oh, I remember one director, I was doing King Lear at the Public Theater in New York, and I was playing Edmund the Bastard Son. And I had come on to one particular performance, and I think I paused twice in the middle of a monologue, because that's where he was for that particular performance. And he gave me a note about speeding it up. He said, yes, we need you to speed that up. And I said, speed it up? How? Well, in your rhythm. We need you to speed it up in your rhythm. And I was so pissed because it was like, you have nothing specific to say about the very different choice that I made. You just want me to speed it up so that we can keep on this running time. And I came out the next day and I did that motherfucker like I was on speed. And I stormed off the stage after the thing and got a round of applause from the audience because they saw just how angry the character was. And he came up to me afterward and he said, well, that wasn't quite what I meant, but it was quite effective, wasn't it? And I said, oh, do you want me to go faster? Is that what you meant? He said, no, by God, no. But I made my point. I never got another timing
vague note,
note from him. It was a victory. But yeah, you just have to find a way to nod, let them know that, yes, I hear what you're saying. It's f***ing stupid, because at some point, it's costing money to argue on a set about choices that should have been made before you got to the set. So when you're on the set, I think it's about making sure that everybody is on the same page and in the same time frame and in the same world. And I don't like to stand out by causing conflict because I want to play it this way. It's like, well, you want me to play it like a mute. I want to play it like an opera singer. How do I come to that thing? Maybe I'll just go and do the song and see if that works.
Trial and error.
Yes.
Can we give Seth a round of applause and thank him so much? He's going to stick around through class.